in a moment that is individually, personally, and collectively challenging, which is an understatement, but I find it to be a real opportunity for learning and evolution and growth, and that is the orientation for me. So I got up overnight. It's like my soul wakes me up at night, and my soul wakes up at night, and I wrote. So I'm gonna start by sharing with you who I am and a little bit about why I do what I do through a story or two. I start with a story because at a young age, I realized that how I see the world is a function of at least two things. How I've been taught and conditioned to see it because of the stories other people have told to me, and how I choose to see it, and the power I have to tell a different story. I grew up in Jamaica, Queens. I'm the daughter of two East Indian immigrants, both of who have passed away. I have two sisters, and from 3rd to 5th grade, I went to a school where Black culture and history were exalted every single day. It was a gifted and talented program. Mensa came to teach us. We learned to meditate. We read Langston Hughes, and we learned about the contributions that Black Americans made to this country. We learned real Black history. We sang the Black National Anthem every morning. And as one of the, I think I was one of 2 non-Black students in my elementary school. And I remember feeling like I needed permission. I loved singing the Black National Anthem every morning. But at some point I recognized I wasn't Black. And so I asked my Black teachers if it was okay. Did they know I wasn't Black? And is it okay that I sing? Because it brought me such joy. And they said, yes, you are welcome to. The Black National Anthem, the lyrics to it are, and I'll try to sing it because Eduardo inspires that. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the glistening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. I was thrilled to start my day this way, raising my song in voice with my fellow classmates. My parents, like all of us, and I contend this, were racist, and they weren't, and they were. My mother's best friend was a Black doctor named Deborah Simmons, who we called Debbie Mossy. Mossy means aunt, Aunt Debbie to this day. So when my mother said to me to be careful as I left the house to board the bus that would take me to my gifted and talented program and walk through the crack epidemic that was raging in 1983 and the early 80s through Jamaica, Queens. When I was attending PS 176, the elementary school, which was led by a Black woman principal named Mrs. Krishlow, who gave my mom so much love that it brought her to tears every time she connected with her. I was sensitive to the cognitive dissonance when my mother said, Black people are not good. You be careful. Call me when you get home from school. I learned to realize that what she was actually saying was, my small beloved child, In this big scary world, I am afraid for your life every day when you leave me to go to school. I am afraid that you will get hurt, that someone who is taking crack will hurt you, that it might be a man and he might be Black. He might happen to be the race that we call Black. And instead, because she couldn't touch her fear, because as a parent, she sometimes felt angry and scared and had to direct it somewhere, that's what she said. If we touch the fear that actually hurts us, we touch our shared humanity. My mother, in her heart and soul, knew that it was not about good or bad or Black people or white people or Indian people. She was afraid, and by not naming her fear directly and by avoiding it, she made up a story. I was on the Fearless call earlier this week, led by Jessica Robinson and Robin Dillard, hosted by Eduardo. And Jessica, you're straight in the frame. You're right in front of me. And the sunshine yellow of your beautiful shirt is grounding. And you were asked a question about what racism is. And I struggle with that question as long as I've done this work. And in part, it is because even having gone to the school that I went to, we are uneducated and miseducated about who we are as a country and about Black lives in this country. So I decided to give it a shot from my current perspective, a definition. Racism is the institutionalization of the stories we tell ourselves from a place of fear and the inability to locate that fear inside of myself, inside of ourselves, as opposed to thinking it's outside. And further, racism is the systematic enslavement and immobilization of the Black body. And I'm saying Black body today because that is the focus of this conversation. And the Black heart and soul, so that the Black heart, soul, body, the head, heart, hands cannot access its full set of resources to act, heal, and be well in the world. And still Black people rise. Racism is power and privilege gone deeply awry. I'm gonna take a beat. And it helps me to look at all of you in your eyes, people I know and people I don't. It helps me move through my own discomfort in this moment. So my second story about what I'm doing here is about D. So when I was in middle school, I used to take a bus to my middle school. And there was a girl who sat usually with about 4 or 5 other girls in this like 4-seated corner of the bus that I took. And I would get on the bus and I would look at her. And I would look at her, you might call it staring, but my eyes are how I make sense. They are the vehicle through which I make sense of and take in the world. They're how I connect to the world. And I would look at her and I saw her. And one of her responses to me, among others, was she occasionally would curse at me. Why are you looking at me? Stop looking at me, turn around. And she was bigger than I was. She had hit puberty before I did. And I decided I didn't want to look away because there was something really beautiful about her. And it wasn't an external beauty, although it also was. It was just her, and I wanted to look at her. So I taught myself over the course of that school year, where I would get on the bus every day and meet her on the bus, how to look at her in a way that might create connection. And one of the things I learned to do was to soften my body. I was afraid when I did this. She was bigger than I was. She had 4 friends and I was alone. I would also get close to the pole. There was like a, it was cool. It was a cool metal pole on the bus in New York City. You know, I would put my hand on it and it would cool me down. And I would just inch closer to her and soften my body, reminding myself why I was looking at her, to connect. And because I saw her and I wanted her to know. And by the end of the school year, I think there was this one particular day where she started saying hello to me. And occasionally I would get a smile. This and so many more stories like this have informed my career, which I'll give just a few highlights around. I've been a teacher. I worked in District 79 at the New York City Department of Ed, where I did one of the first studies on the school to prison pipeline. We were a district that served students who were at promise, but had disconnected from the system. And one of the things I found was that students who were suspended for 1 year were 99.9% Black boys. And that, as we know, is predictive of the likelihood that they will land in prison. I worked with students who were court involved on Rikers Island, and I went and taught students on Rikers, and I asked them about themselves. And they were some of the most entrepreneurial and sophisticated students I had ever met. And that to me speaks volumes about what happens with the outsized energy and potential that is not harnessed and supported and seen and elevated, and is systemically oppressed. It has to go somewhere. We are energetic bodies. Today is about unbecoming racist and anti-Black and disentangling our fear and what we project out there. It is about touching and becoming aware of what actually hurts us so that we don't use that unconsciously to hurt others. And it is about becoming something new and different that views Black people through the lens of love and appreciation and wholeness. Okay. By working through our fear and reconnecting to our bodies. You are not bad for being afraid. You are human. Eduardo has helped me to be human by helping me touch what I'm afraid of. And Julie Simon, who is my co-facilitator today, is where I go when I'm in pain. For me, this is a personal conversation. It is about the deep friendships, the lives of some of my best friends and closest colleagues. Kelly Doss, Jillian Hubbard, Danielle Davis, Denman Tuzo, Aisha Menard, Tiffany Brown, Tiffany McLean, Keith Hickman, and the list is really long. It is about extending this awareness beyond my friends to future generations. I've been speaking to my niece who's 15 years old about this. This was a conversation we had on her 15th birthday and she brought it up. And she's half white and she looks white. It is about white people and people of color awakening to our blind spots. I am on this journey with you. I am in this work with you. Eduardo is in this work with you. Julie is in this work with you. It is about celebrating Black lives and Black joy and Black creative power. Before I turn it to Julie, I'd like to invite you to show up in this space in a few ways. One is the purpose of these conversations is our individual and collective well-being, which are inextricably linked. So please be free to take care of yourself and be responsible. I trust you to be able to respond to your own needs as you self-manage. These conversations are charged, and part of why we speak about the body is because we can use the body as a tool and a vehicle for supporting ourselves and resourcing ourselves as we have these conversations, to help us not turn away from what hurts, but actually touch into it so we can move through it into connection. I also invite you to not blame, not judge, and not shame. We're not here in this space to do that. This is a conversation about including all feelings and all people. And that does not mean by inclusion that we sanction, that we accept them as the way forward. But we're not going to move through them unless we can name them and face them. So I'm going to turn it to Julie, and I will briefly share that I met Julie on Fire Island a few years ago, and it was a soul connection. Yeah, she is, I want to thank you, Eduardo and Julie, for your generosity in opening this space for us.
Thank you, Nita. My heart is beating very quickly, which is why I'm holding it. And I'm not really worried about why that's happening. I'm just acknowledging that it's fast. So I'm going to take a breath to honor Nita's story and framing, Eduardo's generosity, and everyone who chose to be here. We have the privilege to make many choices, and we're here. And I'm going to invite us to take a breath, because in this moment, it feels like an act of collective resistance and solidarity. We're going to move into a meditation soon that will have more time to breathe and to ground. It's important to me as someone who's in a white body not to take up a lot of space on this call or to center myself. And it's important to locate myself within this community. I identify as a cisgendered, white, queer female. I identify as, I guess, a Jubu. I've been raised in the Jewish faith, but I am probably more closely tied to Buddhist teachings and practices. I identify as the daughter and only child of two moms and a father who has passed away. I identify as a member of the upper class, which we may be calling the owning class right now. And I identify as someone with chronically and mostly invisible health challenges. And I come with my full identities intersected and invite everyone here to do the same. I did not grow up going to a school that exalted or really even had many Black students. And I grew up at a time where color blindness was sort of the rule of thumb. I don't see color. And I said that to a friend who had the grace and kindness to educate me, to a Black friend, that not seeing his color meant not seeing him. When we don't see color, we are invisibilizing. And racism is not an accident. It has an interlocking set of systems and practices. Racism is power and prejudice. And what color blindness allowed me and asked me to do is invisibilize folks of color and invisibilize my whiteness. If I don't see your blackness, that means I also don't have to see my whiteness or take responsibility for that. What a brilliant, insidious tool. And it's a tool. It's something we learn. If I invisibilize my whiteness, I invisibilize my complicity and my privilege and my advantages. I don't see them. I don't have to. And then it allows me to rest on these US notions of meritocracy, individualism, and exceptionalism. And it allows me to dissociate from my white bodiness and from the embodiedness of Black folks and other folks of color. George Floyd's murder meant that none of us could turn away. Finally, more and more people saw ourselves in that dynamic. My work as a coach and in the past as an urban planner and a health advocate is aligned with Bree Free's work. My goal is to center everyone's well-being, or maybe a better way to phrase that is the opportunity for everyone to pursue their well-being. It's a daily choice to be anti-racist. It's a daily choice to not be anti-Black. And it's not a choice that I've made daily. I was 16 years old when Rodney King was arrested and cuffed and brutally beaten by 4 police officers. That's 29 years ago. And I let myself witness it somewhere else and being done by other people. And it shaped a lot of my life. It shaped my work. It shaped where I went to college. It shaped my commitments to service. But my reaction to the fact of my privilege allowed me to put it outside of myself. And it allowed me to opt out of what scares me. It allowed me to opt out and assume that others would take up what I put down. And it allowed me to turn away instead of turn towards. So tonight is about turning towards, sitting with discomfort, resourcing ourselves to take action in community and with accountability to people of color and to Black folks that have been doing organizing work, healing work, and change work for centuries. I ask myself, how did I co-create all of these challenges, and how can I co-create the solutions? And we invite everyone into that inquiry tonight and any other inquiry that you are bringing with you. Neats, let me know if this is a good time to shift into our grounding meditation.
Let's do it.
All right. As Nita said, I just want to re-emphasize, because this is radical. Our work at Be Free is invitational. So take care of your well-being through this meditation and this night. We trust that you will navigate the participation in a way that works for you. And we encourage you and invite you to be as uncomfortable as possible within your body and your soul. Let's start for a moment with some orienting and have our eyes open. I'm just going to put a timer on. And just take a look around whatever space you're in. Notice the colors. If there's light or dark or both. And let your whole head move, not just your eyes. Use your body. Notice what you can hear. I hear birds. I hear the hum of my computer. I hear my heart in my ears. Notice what you can smell. This isn't a grounding to leave our day behind. It's a grounding to bring everything around us in. And if it's comfortable for you, I invite you now to close your eyes and to just notice your breath without any desire to change it or regulate it. And begin with remembering why we're here. And let the breath sweep your mind. Notice whether it's a deep breath or a shallow breath. And give yourself permission to acknowledge where there might be pain located in your body. And if it feels true to you, I invite you to place a hand where you feel the pain. And to tune into where you may have places of sadness, places of grief for many, many things, but in this moment, for the many names and many Black lives that have been lost in senseless violence. And I invite you to touch the pain of that, whether that pain is new for you or whether that pain is generations and generations old. In this moment, together we invoke the sense of full presence, honoring all of the feelings we are bringing to this, all of our ignorance and the too much knowing, those of us who have seen too much, and those of us who have acknowledged too little. And as we touch into the truth of this grief, our current losses, the losses that have accumulated in us, the losses that are ours alone, and the losses that we share, I offer some simple phrases that we can touch into. May I be open to the pain of grief and notice whatever comes up without rejection and without clinging to it. May I be open to the sorrow and the pain of grief. May I find the inner resources to be really present for my sorrow. May I accept my sadness knowing that I am not my sadness. May I accept my sadness knowing that I am more than my sadness. Just stay with yourself and whatever comes up. As we move to close, I invite you to take the responsibility and accountability that happens when we integrate and acknowledge where it is that we fall short, where we may have been hiding, and how we can hold that in the wholeness of who we are. Where we can root into a hope that itself is rooted in reality and collective action. That being with our discomfort is a practice that expands our capacity for action, connection, and change. I invite you, as you're ready, to open your eyes. And as the last 38 seconds of 8 minutes and 45 seconds slow down, to be with each other in community, eyes open, hearts open, ready to connect and engage.
Part of what I do when I slow down in a moment like this is just reconnect to my own humanity. It's hard because we're busy and we're trying. But touching what hurts connects us to our humanness. And that is part of our sameness, and it is exactly what enables us to also stand wholly in our differences and be with them. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Nita.
So I think maybe we go into breakout. I think I'll talk about embodiment when we come back. We have an ambitious agenda, but 15 minutes left, so we may do more next time. So Eduardo, can we break folks out? It looks like we have
It's set to be
97.
done, it's set to be done automatically.
Great.
So we're going to break out into rooms of about 3 to 4
3.
participants.
Wonderful. And the thing we'd like you to do as you head into your rooms is to reflect on what was uncomfortable and what felt healing as you experienced that meditation. And please be mindful of giving folks the opportunity to connect and speak. So all folks who are willing and interested. We're going to give you about, it's not a lot of time, but we'll give you about 6 minutes to do it, and then we'll come back together in the collective. Eduardo, am I joining a breakout?
You may be, or you may not.
I'm happy to.
Deborah, you're in breakout room 1.
Deb, how are you? You're muted. Sorry.
Hannah is asking me to put her in. I don't know if she's going to a room or I can't do it now.
You're not sure.
She cut in and out. Yeah.
Caught that. Yeah. We're recording, right? Yeah.
We could pause the recording for a minute, maybe. If that's possible.
I think the universe decided we needed to hang out together.
I take full responsibility of a major Zoom fail. The Zoom fail is mine. I take full responsibility in how I
talk too much, Eduardo. I thought I was talking too much.
This is emergent co-creation.
Emergent
co-creation.
I got so excited, I pressed the button by accident and called for everybody back. So this will be the epic Zoom fail that I will share going forward. And I'm showering myself with forgiveness and kindness and gratitude.
I think this, yeah, that just was another way to resource us. That's how I experience it. Oh man, look at all these people. I know. Wow. Kelly Parsons, Julia Bromka, and Peter, and Mike Atwood, and there's so many. I saw Kathy.
I think we're all back.
Great.
Nita from the room, and we have about 10 minutes.
We have 10 minutes. Okay. So we're going to co-create live because we had a longer agenda.
I just want to add that this conversation is ever emerging, and we didn't believe that this was going to be the only conversation we're going to have on this. So we have the slot for next Tuesday at 5 p.m. currently open at the moment. So this may be something that we will lean into for this conversation to continue. And I just wanted to say this is not the end. This is definitely the beginning of an inquiry and the beginning of a conversation. I'm just so grateful, Nita and Julie, that you've led us through. And we're not done yet, but just wanted to ping that there's space for more.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo that, and we will be happy to keep going beyond today. So I think, Jules, what I'd like to do is invite, I think just we need to connect and interact and hear from folks. And part of what I would like to invite is just what is really uncomfortable for people in this moment. And perhaps we can offer some responses and perspectives that might resource everyone who's listening. So that will be, in my sense, our intention. And I think we will seed that today and continue it in the future, should that be where we go. So, and perhaps the best way to do that is, I don't know, can people raise their hands in this? Or
Rhonda just
sure.
raised her hand, so I'm gonna unmute you. Oh,
Awesome.
Rhonda.
So, yeah.
Rhonda, you can manage your own muting.
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Rhonda.
Okay. Yes, we had a very brief a breakout group, but I find I've always been really uncomfortable with confronting other white people's racism unless it's really overt. Especially the racism in my family, because I'm terrified of confrontation and of discussions that get emotional right away. So, but I'm thinking it's time for me to face that terror and see if I can get past it a little bit, and then be a true anti-racist in deed and not just in word. So that's where I'm at.
We have this gesture in the Fearless Communicators community called elevated sparkleation. So if you feel so inspired, to elevated sparklate, if there's something that somebody says that feels to resonate, I invite that to be an option.
Okay.
And our hands are energetically connected to our hearts and otherwise. So Rhonda, thank you so much. And I'm gonna share some thoughts, and Julie, I think maybe we can both take this. So first, I want to thank you for your generosity and your courage in sharing that, because it is a gift to all of us and it's instructive in this learning environment. I also want to point out that what I heard in the expansive experience you're having of discomfort is you use the word terror, and I want to honor the size of what that must feel like. And as we've shared, right, like the experience of Blacks in this country is one of terror. And so when I say we touching into our own fear is a vehicle for touching into our shared humanity, that is an example. And I don't mean to dishonor the difference in the terror that we all experience, but it is also an experience that is part of our shared humanity. The other thing that was so beautiful and powerful to me, Rhonda, was the resource is within you. And this is my offering to this community in this moment. Like, the challenge is within us and the resources within us. So you moved from sharing your challenge immediately to a space of the resources that you have to do that, and to the intention that you're setting to move through it and get past it. I can speak a little more to the body, but Jules, I want to invite you before.
I may send it back to the body.
Please. Yeah.
But two practicalities, Rhonda, that I use when I am calling white folks into this work is what I did earlier. I named what was happening. My heart was coming out of my chest. I don't know why. Sometimes I know why, but I name it, and that means that I get to meet it. And sometimes other white folks need to know that we're scared to have a conversation, and it allows them to show up with their feelings too. So I spend a lot of time naming things. And Nita, maybe you can speak to ways to help right size. It's an urban planning term, but right size terror, because the terror is real, but it's outsized probably from any threat that may be before us.
Yeah. So a quick 1 minute. We all have nervous systems. The primary states of our neurophysiology are fight, flight, freeze, and social engagement. And when we come to these conversations, and especially when we leave our bodies because we are experiencing fight, flight, freeze, that is when we are most disembodied. And that's part of why I framed what slavery and racism is. It immobilizes us, and right? It immobilizes Black lives. We can come back into our body and move from those states into a state of social engagement. Social engagement is when you feel in your body connected, relaxed, and able to hold more perspectives than just your own. So I heard also in Rhonda's sharing that there are multiple perspectives in your family, and you hold one. And part of the experience of terror is hearing a different one. Part of what we can do, and this might go to a part two, in these moments is to work directly with that terror. There are ways that, so that we don't hate, we self-regulate and educate, right? Educate and self-regulate go together. The capacity to self-regulate is within us. And Julie, our grounding meditation provided some insight into the vehicles through which we can do that. For some people, you can pause, you can slow down, you can tune into your breath. For other people to move through terror, you actually need to get up and move through the terror. That might mean walking, moving your body in a way that feels like dancing to you, but may not look like that to anyone else. And there are other tools, but my first counsel would be to visit your body, to come back into your body when you're feeling the terror, and notice where you're feeling that.
So with that, Nita, just want to take a moment to just acknowledge both you and Julie on behalf of our community for your breath, for your generosity, for your leadership, for your heart, for your love, for leaning into your respective fears and hearts beating and thumping madly, and fighting for your stories, fighting for your voices, fighting for what the truth that there was for you to share in this moment with all of us. In Fearless Communicators, we say we're grounded in body, present in mind, lead from the heart, and speak into the spirit of our shared humanity. And I felt like both of you today shared into the spirit of all of our shared humanity. And at the root of the sharing of that is sharing of breath, that which was so brutally robbed from George Floyd. And just humbled and honored, and there will be a part two. This is not, so we will see you again. We will be in communication around that. For those of you who are in the space who, like one sure space of action, I know Nita and Julie do this work, they do this deep work, and there are organizations that are in need of this conversation. And what we'll do is we'll send out resources via email to all of you. There's also an array of resources that we have compiled that we will also share, that Jessica Robinson on our call has provided for us around tools for allyship. There are also tools that Julie and Nita will provide. If there is anything that we said or did in this that struck a chord with you, that made you angry or sad, or had you experience a feeling, please be in communication with us, be in dialogue with us. We are learning. I see, Johanna, you've raised your hand from Australia. Is that true, Johanna? No. Okay, great. That was okay, great.
I'm also going to put my email into the chat. And Jules, if you want to do that as well, if you would like to connect directly, please do. And as this is the work that we do, and there are concrete tools and responses to support you to move from fear, pain, angst, a feeling of being frozen, uncertain, unsure, into a space of responsiveness where you can take meaningful action. Thank you so much.
So our upcoming chat will be next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The programming of our chats beyond that, we're going to be around the emerging workplace and workforce. We will see if that continues to ring true as we respond to the moment. And I also wanted to plant the seed that on June 18th, on the eve of Juneteenth, we will be hosting a celebration of Black women and their stories. Juneteenth, which was the day that the slaves were liberated, is a day that I did not discover as a holiday until I was in my late 30s. So it'll be a celebration of freedom. It'll be stories of liberation. So we invite you to join us in celebrating the Black women in our community. And there's a little ending ritual that we have here in Fearless Communicators. It is a bonus. It is an and. If we know that we are at time, if you do have to go, we are grateful that you're here. We will be in communication to see you next. And if you are able to stay for a final closing, we'll let it settle, and then we will do our final closing moment. If you are able to be on video, it is very helpful to be on this video. And what's also useful is in the way that we're able to see a hand. If you can, because this is going to get very complicated very soon. It's very helpful. And then it's a very simple ritual where we will see and thank each and every person who is on this call. Once you've been seen and thanked, the invitation is for you to lower your hand so that we can look for who has not been seen and acknowledged yet. And if we are acknowledging spaces with multiple people, if both people can give voice to their names so we can honor their names in this space, okay? So Jessica Goldberg, I see you and I thank you.
Oh, do I go now? Nita Baum, I see you and I thank you.
Jessica. Julie Simon, I see you and I thank you.
Angelina, I see you and I thank you.
Ruby Frazier, I see you and I thank you.
Ruby, you're on mute.
Thank you. Nita Baum, I see you and I thank you.
Ruby Frazier, I see you back and I thank you.
Julie, I see you and I thank you.
I see you and I thank you. Joanna Reuter, I see you and I thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Cassie Freeman, in this moment I see you and I thank you.
Carol Hamilton, I see you and I thank you.
Taylor Jacobson, I see you and I thank you.
Matthew Claudel, I see you and I thank you.
Ann Kemper, I see you and I thank you.
Ryan Santiago, I see you and I thank you.
Caroline Taylor, I see you and I thank you.
Kimberly Smith, I see you and I thank you.
Madeline Schwartz, I see you and I thank you.
Julie Carrera, I see you and I thank you.
Deborah Driscoll, I see you and I thank you.
Lydia Webster, I see you and I thank you.
Michaela Carney, I see you and I thank you.
Tasha McDowell, I see you and I thank you.
Linda Grosser, I see you and I thank you.
Chris Daniels, I see you and I thank you.
Tobiah Nofield, I see you and I thank you.
Lori Fitzmaurice, I see you and I thank you.
See who has not gone yet.
Lori, I think
Monet Creton. Oh, am I Monet Creton? I don't know how to say your name. I see you and I thank you.
I'm muted. There. Can you hear me now? Thanks, Lori. So you guys know I'm Monette for future calls. And I see MCM 220.
Marshall is my name. I should have had it.
Marshall, I
Nice
see
to
you
meet
and I thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go with Tobiah because you were interrupted when you were being seen and thanked. So Marshall has gone already. So Tobiah.
Sure. I was just having a trouble finding a hand. Rai A, I see you and I thank you.
Thank you. Rhonda, I see you and I thank you.
Shauna Finkel, I see you and I thank you.
Megan, there's two of you, if I said it right. I see you and I thank you.
You said it right. And Andrew. Is there anyone left? Just Eduardo. We see you and we thank you.
We see you and we thank you.
And Allie. I see you and I thank you.
I gotta find a hand.
With everyone, you get the all skate. You get
Oh, am I the last one?
Yes, you are.
I see you all, and I thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you so much. Julie and Nita, if you can hold on. We are complete with this call. Thank you so much for your presence. Thank you so much for your witnessing. And we hope to see you very soon. Bye. Elevated Sparklation.